I'm here with Jeff Munroe from Western Theological Seminary. Jeff, please give us some background on yourself and your involvement with Frederick Buechner and his books.
Well, Brian, I'm executive vice president at Western Theological Seminary in Holland, Michigan. I am a huge Buechner fan, Buechner lover. 30 some years on into reading everything that Buechner's written. Excited about the publication of 2 new Buechner books. I've got them all, read them all. So I love Fred.
So at the time of this recording, as you mentioned, there are 2 new Frederick Buechner books coming out within a couple of weeks. One is entitled A Crazy Holy Grace, and it deals with the healing power of pain and memory. Can you tell us what this book means to you personally?
Yeah, you were generous enough to let me see an advanced copy of it, and it's really interesting. It's the first essay in it is an essay that hasn't been published before. In some ways, it's kind of a first draft of a longer essay called Adolescence and the Stewardship of Pain that people really familiar with Buechner will be familiar with. This idea, though, that Buechner pulls out in this essay that's in A Crazy Holy Grace about the stewardship of pain is it's just a great way to help make sense of life and of the difficult things that happen in life. And I've experienced pain, and Buechner spoke to me really significantly through that. It's kind of too long of a story to tell through this, but it's a Frederick Buechner changed my life type of story in reading that and coming to think about the things that happen in life, the difficult things that happen in life, and running it through the filter of the parable of the talents in Matthew 25 and asking ourselves, what do we do with these things, and what does it mean to be a steward of the experience? And to bury it is what the bad steward does in the parable, and that's the temptation for all of us, to bury the difficult things in life, to just pretend that they don't exist, to get stuck in them some way, and to trade with them is the other thing, the other option. And so Buechner writes beautifully about that. That's in this book. Then there are other excerpts in this book from previously published Buechner things, but these are now organized in a way that makes them easy to find, all around pain, experience of pain, and then memory and the power of memory. And memory also is just a huge thing in life. One of the questions that I've written on is memory really a blessing or is it a curse? And it really functions as both in our lives. And Buechner then has written powerful things about that. So that's explored in this book too. It's really great.
So how do you think that what he talks about in terms of pain and memory in this book relate to those topics in other books?
Well, what this does is takes excerpts from books where he's touched on this, and then so this book is organized thematically, and it brings them together so you can find it, you can access. Well, what's Buechner say about this? You can access it, and he writes so powerfully and so presently about his own experience. That's listening to your life. It's Buechner's basic kind of mantra, and this is organized in a way that makes it very accessible. And then if you are new to Buechner, then this is a way to kind of walk in the door and say, man, I want to read more. I want to get more of this. And there's this great body of work then to explore. And you could say, oh, so I read this part from Sacred Journey. I want to read that whole book, or from Telling Secrets. And man, you'll be blessed by reading those books. I guarantee that.
So the other new Buechner book coming out is called The Remarkable Ordinary, and it deals with the theme of one of his famous pieces of encouragement to listen to your life. How does this book reflect that theme?
Well, yeah, it's great. My take on it, as I read it, was that it is remarkable, but the book is extraordinary. And it's it's really new for Buechner fans because these are the publication of lectures that he gave in the 90s that hadn't been published before. I mean, in terms of things, is that the right word? Germs? No, that's not the right word. Germinate. They're seeds of things that become developed later in other pieces in previously published material. But again, this is something new. And he is revealing things about his own life and then opening the door for us to think of our lives. If God speaks anywhere, he says it's into our personal lives that he speaks. And he's giving us a framework for a way of looking at our lives and listening to our lives, to stop, look, and listen, as he says in this book. I heard just a little trivia. The first address in the Remarkable Ordinary, I heard him give that message in probably, I'm going to say 1992, I think, at Calvin College in Grand Rapids. I was reading this saying, wait a minute, I remember this. There's so many images that stuck with me. It's the first time I'd ever heard him speak. And it's wonderful stuff. Great message.
What do you think that these books offer for new Buechner fans?
Well, I hope there are lots of new Buechner fans, and there's a new generation of people that need to get to know him that would be blessed and encouraged by getting to know him. And this is a great entry point. It's a great way in. So to me, it's a doorway in to this phenomenal writer. Without question, I think the preeminent spiritual writer of our times. Just a great literary author, accomplished, but also so real and so human and so powerful. So there's nobody like him.
So what would you say that these books have to offer for people who are already very familiar with Mr. Buechner's work?
So you're in the club already, right? Like I am. It's just something you haven't seen before, or first drafts of things. In that way, the analogy that I thought of is it's sort of like the Beatles anthology, where you get to listen to early versions of things, and you're familiar with the finished product. You're familiar with what came out of it. In some ways, it's like that. In other ways, especially with Remarkable Ordinary, there are facets of stories that you're familiar with that he gives more detail here, tells more of the story than you've ever seen before or read before. So that's really interesting as well. It goes deeper in some ways, deeper into some details that he hadn't done before.
So Jeff, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate you sharing all your insights, and we certainly look forward to these new books.
So do I, Brian, and thanks for talking with me. Thank you.